Hello, fellow strategists. This week is the week that we really need to start thinking harder. That's correct. I've talked a bit about it, but now it's time to think harder. Never underestimate, ever underestimate your opponent. But more importantly, when you think harder, you don't just look at your opponents. The potential entrants are the ones you need to look at, or potential market changes. Now, let's look, for instance, just a topic I'm interested in, blockchain. This is something that has literally come out of nowhere. And on the surface, you could think to yourself, that's just a technology, whatever. Well, what it really does, it's going to take the middleman out of the world, okay? It's going to turn the internet into a database. Is that a big deal? I think really you should be thinking about opponents out there in the market that might be able to take advantage of this. Maybe you're an insurance broker. Maybe you're somebody that's a middleman. You might be thinking, no, that won't ever affect me. You need to really look at that. So I guess as we head into this, we think about globalization. I guess with this strange accent, I tend to know a little bit about it. So globalization on the surface seems like a real nice economic principle, right? Comparative advantage of certain countries, are actually taken advantage of. And if you've got a comparative advantage in land, that's good for you. Comparative advantage in manufacturing, and so on. But there's a sort of an edge to this, right? The comparative advantage then can end up being a real competitive strategy. If you look at what's happening now in Asian production, and all of a sudden here in America, everybody's trying to figure out what do we do with the factories. The reality is that globalization is kind of interesting, that it's really about efficiency, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be fun, and it seemed like a good idea at the time, but of course, in the mix, the people that survive this are chameleons. The people and managers and people like you that survive this are chameleons, but they're also managing under uncertainty. Don't manage as though the world's going to go on the same. Is blockchain going to change the world? I don't know. I think so. You just never know. You've got to really be looking at not just identifying your opponent and never underestimate them. That's the worst thing I've ever heard, is when people say to me, well, I think we're 5 years ahead of the field. In information technology where I work, never say that. I mean, you just never know. Somebody could pop up from Palo Alto tomorrow with a complete and utter different way of seeing the world. The whole idea of platform, if anyone ever wants to read a book that's going to change your life, read something called Platform Revolution. And then try and think of the analogies with something like Airbnb, okay? Came from nowhere and essentially is the biggest hotel chain in the world. Metaphorically speaking, it is. Uber, another company, came from nowhere. It's an app, basically. But frankly, I haven't seen the numbers right now, but I wouldn't mind betting it's the biggest cab company in the world. So I think not only do I want you to really think harder about the opposition, never underestimate, but also start to think about this in economic principles. Comparative advantage of certain nations, the whole idea of currencies is a big deal too, aka cryptocurrencies. That's something you've got to think about. Like the old ways where, say China might peg their particular currency, or someone else is basically getting an unfair advantage for a whole lot of different reasons. I don't mean China, I mean all different countries, even America at some times, where they subsidize farming and things like that. Point is, the external review, I would say, is the number one reason that people fail. They think they're being strategic, but they're kind of being tactical, pseudo-strategic. If you're really strategic, you really spend a lot of time up front on knowing what the playing field is, understanding what's changed. And I'd almost say that the best business plans are the business plans that are forever having workouts and ways to look at the opposition and understand. Like for me at least, I use Google Alerts a lot, because I might pick up something out of Belarus, or I could pick up something out of Chile, and I pick it up as it happens, not out of some article or Fortune magazine. That's interesting. This is moving way too fast. So look, let's have fun. I honestly think you're one of the best classes I've ever taught, and it's really fun talking to a lot of you. Anyone wants to call me, just give me a call and we'll have a chat, or we'll arrange a meeting. We can go one-on-one. Because to close this out, yes, this is about corporate strategy. That's great. But what you've got to do, you've got to find out what your unique selling point, what is your sustainable competitive advantage. Don't get caught without plan B and C. B's good for A, but what happens if B doesn't work? You've got to have C. Always thinking harder about your personal strategy and how that's going to fit you into the right company. It could be your own company. There's a school of thought to say, whenever I'm in China, this is this amazing economy that essentially is a command economy, government rule, or is it? Everybody you meet there is a corporation. So think about that for a minute. Think about your personal brand, what's unique, and then think about basically how you fit into the globe. Think about yourself as a corporation, because you may have to be one day. Nonetheless, always think about managing under uncertainty. Thank you so much.